Today I will be presenting to you our updated version of the media fact-checking online presentation. All right, so today, first of all, we will be teaching you how to identify unreliable news, and we will be sharing online tools that can help you fact-check or determine the extent of bias in news stories or the extent of bias in authors. And we will also provide tips on how to see the whole story on social media. And finally, we will be sharing online tools for information regarding COVID-19 and the 2020 elections in both the United States and as well as elections in Canada. All right, so there are three terms that we should be familiar with that I will introduce right now. So the first term is fake news. When we say fake news, we mean news that deliberately aims to spread false information or just false information to an audience and provides misinformation. The second word is algorithms. So this is coding, which helps determine what you see online. Many sites, such as the websites and social media sites, use algorithms to determine what you see on your newsfeed. And finally, bias is a term referred to many people because bias is found in both people and websites, and it is generally a system or a person's inability to perceive things without a preference, meaning that sometimes things with bias will often only see one side of the story. Okay, so some things to keep in mind about online media is that the internet is generally a great thing because many people can share many of their interests and their opinions online. However, this also means that there are people who do not follow the journalist code of conduct, meaning that they will try to spread false information and misinformation to people, and this can often cause a lot of confusion and that online. Okay, so there are many types of unreliable news. The first kind is satire, which is basically the use of humor or irony, or using exaggerated or false information in order to commentate on a current event. Sometimes it is hard to determine whether a site is using satire, but you can often tell if they're using unrealistic or exaggerated examples and metaphors when they are writing the news article. Next, we also have the extremely biased kinds of unreliable news. So these are sources that express a particular point of view and they confirm existing biases. So these sites can often use propaganda or information out of context in order to present their opinions as facts. We also have clickbait articles. So these articles are generally pretty credible. However, the problem is that they have exaggerated or misleading titles to attract traffic and therefore money to their news article. And often a clickbait title is misleading and does not actually reflect on the accurate facts and information that you should be getting. Next, we also have conspiracy theories or junk science. So these are sources that create or promote conspiracy theories or theories that have no factual backing and are simply just imaginative and put out there. And next, we also have fake news. So these are sources that fabricate their information or they distort actual news reports and they spread generally deceptive content, and they do this for financial gain in order to get to attract traffic to their website in order to get money. So what are some indications that a website is unreliable? So one of these indications is that it is not able to be verified, meaning that this site does not cite any sources that actually back the facts or the claims that they are making. Second of all, they can also intentionally appeal to your emotions. So instead of talking in facts, they talk in a way in order to convince you onto their side, without actually giving you real numbers and real sources. Next, these sites can also have no expert opinions or sources, meaning that there are no confirmations made by scientists or professors or people notable in a certain field making these claims. Instead, it's simply an anonymous author or someone who is unreliable making these claims. Next, another indication that the site is unreliable is that its claims can't be found elsewhere, meaning that it might report on an event that is groundbreaking, but no other news site seems to be reporting on the same thing. This often means that the site has just made it up and that is not really a thing that happened, or it's been exaggerated. And finally, the final clue of an unreliable website is that it comes from a fake website, meaning that this website is not one that is reliable, that is well known by thousands of people and by hundreds to millions of thousands of people, or it is a website that is a dupe or a fake version of a real one. So here's a great image of some things that a great image to indicate whether a site is unreliable. You can see many of the things that I've already said before, but you can also see some new things such as check the date. So make sure to always check if a news story is old, because sometimes old news stories are not necessarily relevant to current events. And also, if you're unsure if a source is really reliable, you can always ask a librarian or search it on a fact-checking source in order to determine its reliability. All right, so what makes a site reliable? A reliable site has to have all four of these things in order to be reliable. So the first thing is that the publication has reputation for fair reporting. So this is often an indication that it has fair and well-reputable sources. For example, the Washington Post and other news sites are examples of this that millions of people use that have known to be reputable and fair. Second of all, these sites rely on facts instead of emotions, meaning that it gives real numbers and information instead of relying on emotions and fake events. Next, these reliable sites also cite their sources, meaning that they have links to where they have gotten their information. Make sure to also check these sources and that these sources are reliable as well, and that they agree with what the publication has said. And finally, a reliable site will always not be unique. So this means that there are many sites who also agree with what this news article is talking about, and that many different opinions and different sources agree on the same thing. Okay, so here are 3 great fact-checking resources that will help you check whether a site or an article is reliable in regard to its facts. So the first one is Snopes. So Snopes normally checks on a certain article, such as a news story, or things such as urban legends and internet memes. So we go into Snopes, which I have over here. Oh, okay. Here you go. All right, so Snopes, as you can see, here is the site. And if you go into fact checks, which I'm in right now, and you scroll down, you can see many different news articles that may have untrue or miscaptioned news information. For example, if we go down here, here's one that says, did a California DA say looting is okay and subjects need what they steal? So if I click on this link, it will show me, first of all, what the article says, or the claim right here of what the article has said. And second of all, it shows the rating. So basically, Snopes has decided that this article is completely untrue and that it's false and it has incorrect information in it. And you scroll down here, you can see the original news article and what they have written about it. And it also shows an analysis of what Snopes has said, and it shows what is wrong with the article and why it is false. All right, so our next site is PolitiFacts. So this was created and run by the Pulitzer Prize-winning editors and reporters of the Tampa Bay Times, so it's fairly reliable. If we go onto that website over here, PolitiFacts mostly focuses on quotes by political figures and determining whether these things are true or untrue. For example, down here on the right side, you can see if a quote is true or mostly true, or if it is false, such as here. So if you click on this link, you can see what this person has said, as well as the rating of how true it is. And down here is a quick summary of what is true or what is untrue about what this person has said. And if you scroll more down, you can find what the broad numbers show and other facts and graphs about what is really going on. And finally, we have the Washington Post. So the Washington Post has a fact checker, and it's quite reliable. In fact, it's one of the most reliable. And if you go into the Washington Post fact checker, you can see many different articles and things that have been posted. So if I click on the first one, this one is talking about a video that shows a political figure who has seemingly fallen asleep on live TV. But what it has said over here down in the facts is that in fact this video was edited and cut to make it look like that, and in fact it is untrue and it has just been edited. At the very bottom, you can see that this article has been given 4 Pinocchios. So Pinocchios is, as you know, Pinocchio is a little boy whose nose gets longer the more he lies. And this article having 4 Pinocchio means that this article is extremely untrue. All right, so those are all the fact-checking resources. Next, we have 2 bias-checking resources. So first of all, we have All Sides, which is a site that offers all sides to a certain event. So if I click on this, we can go to this link. And you can see many different events that have currently happened and how the right side, the left side, and the center of the political spectrum have covered this story. So an example here is of a news article, and down here you can see from the left, this is what the left has said about Nancy Pelosi. This is what the center has said about her, and this is what the right side has said about her. And All Sides is able to give you an opinion from many different sides on the same story so that you can have a better rounded view of what has happened. Another great thing about All Sides is that it has a choice to see media bias. So on the very top, if you click on media bias, it will show you news outlets and where they appear on the political spectrum in this graph right here. And second of all, we have Media Bias Fact Check, or MBFC for short. So if we click on that, we could go onto this link. Oh, sorry, not this link. Yes, okay, it is. All right, and then what happens is that this site decides on whether an entire website is closer to the right or closer to the left on a political spectrum. For example, if we talk about the Australian Financial Review, it would determine how factual it is. So in this case, it's quite high, as well as how biased it is. So in the case of the Australian Financial Review, media bias fact checks has determined it to be rather centered. All right, so those are all the great fact-checking websites and bias-checking websites that you can check out. Next, I will be talking about bots. So bots are basically robots that have been programmed by people in order to create accounts on websites and social media websites in order to spread misinformation or bias throughout the internet. So you can find them on Facebook or Twitter, for example, or in the comment section of your videos or on news articles. It's really important to identify these bots because they spread this misinformation and can cause a lot of harm. So there are 4 ways to identify a bot. The first way is checking their account. So real people will share real stories and they will have a full account, meaning that they will have a photo of themselves or maybe their family. They will have people who are considered their friends. They will have followers and they will most likely engage with their friends and these kind of people. However, the opposite is true for bots. You will often find that a bot's account has little to no information on it, and that it has a really general and typical profile picture, such as a well-known landmark that is quite commonly known. Next, you can also check on the activity of an account, such as the frequency of their posting and how successful these posts have become. For example, if you come across an account with only 1 post and no followers, however, that post has thousands of shares, it's quite likely that this account is a bot account that has other bots liking and sharing their singular photo. Next, we have the content. So the people who create these bots often have an agenda or a goal. So sometimes it's to drive traffic to their website, to generate income, or to spread a political misinformation and things like that. You will often see that a bot will post highly political messages or highly promotional messages. And when you see this, you can be fairly sure that it's some sort of bot. And finally, a way to identify a bot is even if it has a profile photo that looks like a normal person, they could often steal this profile photo from Google Images or from the internet. So a quick test to find if they have stolen this profile picture is to search on Google Images with Image Finder. And if you happen to find this image for another person's account, it's likely that this account is a bot. All right, so next I will be talking about the echo chamber. So social media sites such as Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter are really easy ways to share and find news. However, there is a problem with the kind of content that these sites will show you. For example, social media will feed us algorithms that determine what we want to see on our feed. So what ends up happening is that the algorithm will feed you news you already know and opinions that you already have, turning your feed into an echo chamber and not really showing you any new information. A great way to combat this is to actively search for new information, and this way you can see the other side of the same opinion. So, although social media sites are great and they provide assistance to their users who want to double check the accuracy of certain claims, sometimes social media sites do not have enough information or are not reliable enough in order to truly be a reliable source. It is great to understand the policies and practices of social media sites in order to understand how reliable their facts and news can be. So first of all, we have the Facebook's policies on news. So Facebook has a policy where it starts putting notices on certain political posts. However, this policy does not serve as a fact checker, meaning that Facebook will not flag a post if it is untrue, and they will also not necessarily redirect you, and they will not redirect you to a correct source. It will only notify you that a post is political or not. Next, we have Twitter's policies. So Twitter has created a policy for people to link fact-checked sources to their information that they post, specifically on posts with dealing with COVID-19 and voting. However, the problem with this is that the tweets will not be fact-checked by Twitter, and they will not be censored by Twitter unless there is a lot of commotion on how wrong these posts are. Twitter will also not apply this policy to all their tweets and Twitter accounts, only ones that seem like large threats of misinformation, such as large news sources on Twitter or political figures on Twitter. And that means that smaller accounts can still spread misinformation on Twitter without getting marked. And finally, we have search engines. So even Google is biased, just like you. When you search on a search engine, it will give you the results it thinks you want to see based on its algorithm. So basically, the way that you ask a question on a search engine can impact the results that you see. And this means it's important for you to use different patterns and use different keywords when you search for news sites and news information in order to get a broader idea of what you want to see. It is also really important to keep in mind how much controversial opinions can be common in news articles. Because controversial opinions tend to provide more traffic to sites, many news sites will try to create catchy titles and clickbait titles in order to have more people click on their site. So make sure that you are reading into these news sites and be conscious that trusted news sources can also be biased sometimes. Even if you think you trust a news site, there are also other ways that you could possibly be a victim to misinformation. For example, CNN, NBC, and Fox have all had their sites copied and duped by other people. So what that means is that someone will create a URL that looks very similar to the URL that CNN or NBC or Fox may use, and then they try to copy what the format of the news site looks like, and they will post misinformation on that. A great way to figure out if your URL is reliable or not is to check the URL for misspellings or other telltale signs, such as if the ending is usually .com, but it changed to .org or something like that. Another great way to fact check your articles is to text your link to click on the links in that article. You will see these article links by text that have been underlined or have been highlighted blue. And if you click on these links, you can see the sources that the author has used. And from that, you can also determine how reliable a news source is. All right, so next we will be talking about the new 2020 Vote by Mail guide. Snopes has created a really good vote by mail guide for people in the United States. So if we click on here, on Snopes, you can see that they have created this website that shows you your state's deadlines and other information. If you go down here, you can see all the states in the United States, and you can click on your state, for example, New York. And it will give you some basic information about New York's requirements, such as if you have to apply for mail-in ballots. The answer in New York is yes. Your application deadline, your ballot delivery guidelines, early voting options, as well as other resources that you can use to find more details about voting. We also have this site that is very reliable for voting information. This site will allow you to check your registration for voting, as well as the deadlines in your state for voting, and as well as who is going to be on the ballot or what is going to be on the ballot, as well as finding your polling place and other details about casting your vote. So as you can see here, if I click register to vote, you can put in your email address. You can also put in your zip code. And what that will do is that it will show you if you're eligible to voting, and it will also and where you should put where you should go for voting, as well as when you have to vote by, and other information that you might need. Here's some reliable COVID-19 information by Johns Hopkins. They have some of the most up-to-date information on coronavirus, and they have some free short online courses for better understanding the virus. So on this link here, as you can see on the left side, you can see the global cases of coronavirus and other statistics. You can also see down here the US map or the global map for coronavirus cases. So here's the global map for COVID-19 cases, and it will show you in the red where coronavirus has had an outbreak, as well as the deaths and the people who have been affected and the people who have recovered from coronavirus, as well as other statistics such as the daily cases that have happened recently. So yeah, that is the end to our presentation. I hope you learned a lot about reliable sources